So my question to you is, what is really the value of a will? Do people actually need it?
People do need a will. The value is you get to decide who's going to get your assets, and if something happens to one of your beneficiaries, you get to decide the backup beneficiaries. If you don't have a will, then there is law out there from Florida law, that decides who's going to get your assets. So it's better if you make that decision than have the courts or have the law that's already in place make that decision for you.
So what do you mean by who are these people that decide where my assets go? Let's use an example. Let's say, I have 3 kids. Let's say I'm driving along with my wife, and we get in a terrible car accident, and neither of us survive. And the kids happen to be home with a babysitter. I understand that I would really probably want to have a will so that I know where my kids are going to go. But what happens to my assets? And is it the same as my kids? Are they considered an asset of mine?
The kids are not considered an asset of yours. I know a great reason to have a will is because of guardianship. You want to be able to decide who gets to take care of your kids if something happens to both you and your spouse. And if you don't make that decision, then someone is going to have to apply to the courts to be the guardian, and it just takes a lot longer if you don't go ahead and designate a person for that job. As far as your assets, if you don't have a will, they are going to go to your children, but because your children are under 21, someone's going to have to apply to be a conservator or a guardian of their money too, not just their person. So then you've got 2 different court proceedings you're having to worry about, or not you, but your loved ones are having to worry about to have things in order. So it's much better to have a will and have it all set out in writing.
So let's take it to the next level and say I don't have kids, or no, let's say my kids are in their 50s. I'm 75 years old, and I got a 50-year-old son and daughter, and my assets, I don't have much. Let's say, do I need a will if I really don't have any assets? If I just have enough to live, I could maybe got $50,000 in the bank.
You can have a will if you have $10, or you can have a will if you have $10 million. It's still a decision you have to make on who's going to get those assets. And a lot of parents, I have situations where parents with multiple children, adult children, they've got one child who's taking care of them in their old age. So they want to leave more to that one child, or all that they have to that one child, because that one child's been taking care of them. So it's a great example of why having a will, even if you don't have much, could be useful.
So a will allows you to play favorites with your kids?
I guess it does.
I hope my mother is listening. I'm the youngest of 4 boys. So, Mom, if you really want to play favorites, she doesn't have to tell anyone, does she? She could just have it in the will, and we all find out after the fact.
Exactly.
Ooh, that could be trouble. So really, if one of the things I say is, do you have a will? And a lot of people say, I don't have anything. So you're saying will is useful even for, what about the house? What about the car? The assets that people don't really consider, like money.
The house should be in a will. It should be taken care of by a will. If it's a homestead, it is protected from creditors, so there's certain rules against the creditors being able to make a claim against it. But it is good to designate who you want to have the house, if you want them to take it over, if you want it to be sold and the assets split, and how you want to worry about that. Same with the car. Any kind of vehicle, any kind of household property, you could have a will to designate who's going to get your engagement ring, who's going to get your stamp or your coin collection. Any items like that also can be set out in a will for who's going to get them. So it's not just, the $10 million you may have in a bank account, but it's also about, items that are valuable to you that may not have value to anyone else.
So what if, what if I own a particular piece of jewelry and I want my daughter to get it? What if I just write a little note saying this is for her? Is that good enough, or we need a will? I'm just trying to be practical here, because I'm thinking about my clients that say, oh, I don't need a will. I'm trying to give them a reason to get one.
Right. A will is going to be, in most circumstances, a will is going to be uncontestable if it's done properly. If it's got the right execution, the right signatures, a notary, the self-proving affidavit. If it's done correctly, then it's going to be uncontestable. So when you have those handwritten, first of all, holographic wills or handwritten wills aren't allowed in the state of Florida. But if you write out about one particular object, that's going to be easy to contest.
Gotcha. I didn't know that. That's very good to know. I think that people don't take it seriously until, what happens is I get the horror stories. Someone dies and, the will wasn't there, and now all of a sudden they're trying to pick up the pieces. So I look at it more as a peace of mind type thing, where it's all set out And once the will's written, I guess you can always make changes to it. It's not like it's set in stone, right?
Yep, you can make amendments. It's called a codicil. You can make those if you change your mind about your beneficiary, your executor, or if you gain or lose an asset, sell an asset.
One of the, I guess it's a wives' tale. I don't know what you want to call it. When people are talking to me about their money, they say, I have 3 kids. I want to leave 2 of them the money, and I want the other one that has been a thorn in my side. I don't want to leave him a dime. And they say, I'm going to leave him a dime, and say, just so that I know that he can't contest it. Is there some truth to that? You have to name somebody in order to leave them out, or what is that all about?
It's a lot better if you name someone to leave them out. It's not a must, but it makes it clear that you were thinking of them. You put them down in your will, but you're not going to leave them anything. So I recommend it if somebody wants to not leave one of their children any money. I do still put their name in there.
Now, when you're dealing with, this is more of a personal question, when you're dealing with people that are writing wills, do you find that they get emotional about it? They don't want to write it because they're talking about mortality?
That is one of the top 2 reasons people don't want to get a will or have their estate plan done, is because they think of themselves as invincible, and they don't want to think of the possibility of what happens if they pass away.
Well, what's the top reason then?
Laziness.